Agro-Dealers and the implementation of the 10-year action plan. Again, we mentioned that last month in Nairobi, the African Union convened the African Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit. And the outcome document of that summit was the adoption of a 10-year action plan to improve the fertilizer sector and to improve soil health on the continent. So our thinking as we planned and developed the Hub Agro-Dealer conference, development conference, was to share with you and have other colleagues join and share with you insights about how our community, if you will, can play a role in implementing this momentous 10-year action plan. This session will be led by Mr. Joseph Mwangangi, who is our Deputy CEO at AFAP. Joe, let me turn it over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this second session of the inaugural African Agro-Dealer Development Conference. We have a topical topic to speak to today, and we are going to have a fairly distinguished panel of experts who will lead us in that discussion. But first, let me say a few things about the Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan, FSHAP. Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. It is important that the discussion on fertilizer is coupled with soil health. It is maybe one of the developments that is very essential in the conversation that surrounds fertilizer in the current discussions. I want to say probably just two things regarding the Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan. It highlights 5 areas, but I'll focus on 2. On fertilizers, the action plan aims or commits to triple the production and distribution of fertilizer by 2034. Of course, that commitment has implications. And I should add that it's not just the word fertilizers. There is a qualification that has been added to it, and that is we are talking about organic and inorganic fertilizers, not just fertilizers. That emphasis is important. So tripling the production and distribution of organic and inorganic fertilizers in the next 10 years is an agenda that is on the table. It's an agenda that is important for all of us who are in this conference. It is important because it has implications on investments. The investments that may be coming from the public sector may become more important, the private sector, which is well represented here. It has implications on the outreach to the farmers, because we cannot produce without the consumer. Tripling the production and distribution of inorganic and organic fertilizers means that there has to be the mechanisms and the channels to get it down to the user, and that is the farmers. So on fertilizers, there's a commitment that the action plan has put on the table that binds us to be pursuing in the next 10 years. The second element that I want to mention about the action plan is on soil health aspect of the action plan. that by 2024, 2 objectives have been set, and one of them is reversal of land degradation. And the second is restoring soil health. We have distinguished and knowledgeable experts today to try and probably unpack what that means. Reversing land degradation, restoring soil health. And the target is targeting reversal and restoration of up to 30% of degraded soil, African soils. That may speak to one of the issues that keeps coming up across most of the African countries where we are engaged in. And that is the issue of soil acidity. That is a major challenge in most of the countries where we are, where smallholder farmers are engaged in. Promotion and use of fertilizer in the soils that are acidic has implications that I think most of us are aware of. So there is need to understand the state of our soils. There's need to understand the corrective measures that will be pursued during the period. There is need to understand the implications on investments that are investment options that may be pursued in these reversal and restoration programs. The other aspects that the action plan highlights about on financing, which I will not go into now, on enabling environment, again, I'll leave that to the experts, and on capacity enhancement to support implementation. I will therefore take this opportunity to introduce the panelists for this discussion, or to lead us in this discussion. The first panelist that I would like to introduce is Dr. Lilian Wanjiru Mbuthia. She is an independent consultant, currently CEO of Fertilizer Association of Kenya. She has in the past headed the Israel Chemicals Limited, ICL East Africa, for 10 years, and is a practicing soil science specialist. Please, let's welcome Dr. Lilian Wanjiru. Come to the podium, please. Our second distinguished guest is Dr. George Bigirwa. He is the head of the Center for Excellence for Seed Systems in Africa, working with AGRA for the last close to 17 years. He is a plant pathologist by training and has done extensive work in research and administration. He has pioneered the establishment of several seed companies across Africa, and is a leading seed scientist working with AGRA. Please welcome Dr. Bigirwa to the podium. The third panelist is Dr. Kwame Frimpong. He is a senior scientist with the African Plant and Nutrition Institute, APNI, based in Morocco. He has been a professor in soil fertility and, in Cape Coast for 20 years. He's a specialist in plant and soil science and a visiting scholar in several universities in England, Germany, Israel, US, among others. Help me introduce, or rather, call to the podium, Dr. Frimpong. Welcome. Our fourth panelist is listed in our program as Tinashe Kapuye, but unfortunately, he could not make it because of flight delays, and in his place, we have an equally strong, or probably fairly good representative of the African Network of Agricultural Research Institutes, ANAPRI, Dr. Anthony Chapoto. Chapoto will represent the Institute in this discussion. The purpose of this session for today is first to share insights on the 10-year plan that I mentioned. And second, to identify or highlight potential areas of interventions by that the agro-dealers can engage in, and equally, also identify opportunities for private sector engagement that may involve or entail investments, innovation, capacity development, policy advocacy, and also at the same time be able to appreciate some of the challenges that as private sector we might face as we implement the Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan for the next 10 years. The desired outcome for this session will be a good appreciation of the potential opportunities that agro-dealers have as we move to the next phase of the plan. So at this point in time, I will call Dr. Lillian Wanjiru to make the first presentation. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. It's quite an honor to be able to be here, to be representing the private sector. I'll be bringing the perspective of the private sector in Kenya. And it's an honor to be able to be seated amongst known and well-renowned researchers. And therefore, I hope I will be able to contribute well into this discussion. I'm going to present a small presentation, introduce the private sector in Kenya, who we are, what we do, the opportunities that are there, and how we can contribute to this 10-year action plan. Okay. Doesn't seem to be working. Can you move for me to the next slide? Awesome. Okay. So I'll start with a short introduction of who the Fertilizer Association of Kenya is. We are the umbrella organization in Kenya for fertilizer manufacturers, importers, blenders, distributors, basically the whole value chain. With us, we are able to represent the agro-dealers, the distributors. We are currently a membership of about 25 fertilizer importers and manufacturers and traders. We also bring along OFIMAC, who is a local association for organic manufacturers with us, who carry with them about 18 local manufacturers. We were established in 2009 to address issues affecting the fertilizer industry in Kenya, but more so to encourage research in the development and production of soil-specific and crop-specific fertilizers, and to promote the education and the use of fertilizers and also soil health practices and management practices. Now, in a nutshell, a lot of investments over the last few years in the Kenyan industry. We have about 10 plus blending plants because more blending units are also coming into place. We have 3 granulation units. One just was added this year. And with those huge investments, I will show we've made a huge strides when it comes to fertilizer supply in Kenya. In terms of people, and here I want to illustrate that when we're talking about the agronomist directly employed by the sector, we're not only talking about company agronomist, we are including the agronomist even at the agro-dealer level. And so you can see the huge potential that this network brings when it comes to being able to achieve the 10-year action plan and the huge investments that the industry puts into this whole agenda of fertilizer and soil health. Now, this is just to show you how the fertilizer industry in Kenya has grown from 2011, when we were only supplying about 500,000 metric tons, to now where we've reached to an average of around 750 to 800,000 metric ton. There is a goal for this to increase to around 1,200 million, and hopefully that can be achieved, but like they said, it's tripling. So if we are to triple this, how much are we going to get to? So I think there's still huge potential, and Kenya was one of the countries that has been able to achieve the Abuja Declaration. But like has been said, we are aware that this is not enough. We are aware that now what we need to do is focus on nutrient use efficiency. So what do we need to do, even as we increase fertilizer use, to be able to achieve nutrient use efficiencies? We've been discussing about how soils are degraded. What do we need to do? Soil acidity are issues that we know. What do we need to do in order to increase our organic matter so that we are able to increase the nutrient use efficiencies of the fertilizers that are there, and even as we are looking to grow further. Now, this slide just gives an overview of the distribution channels or models that are existent in Kenya. So the first one over here is what has been dominant over the years. So a very sophisticated, this is very simplified. So you have the private sector, the private importers, local blenders and traders, and then you have the wholesalers and the agro-dealers, and then this is how the crop nutrition products get to all the farmers. In between, we had a program for subsidy that was targeting small-scale farmers, using a voucher system that was very efficient, that included other inputs other than fertilizer. It included lime, it included seeds. It was very efficient. And then you have a second one, which is not very dominant, where the private importers go directly either to export crop companies like KTDA or even estate crops, and who then go even to their outgrowers and large-scale farms. And then in the last 2 years, what is now dominating these other two is a direct purchase of the government in the subsidy program that has kept this network and goes directly to the farmers. It was good. We really support subsidy, especially because in the last 3 years, prices really went skyrocketed, and so subsidy is a necessity at that point. However, it's good to be able to consider the existing ecosystem when this happens. To give a few challenges and opportunities that exist, I've grouped this into capacity, competence, and coverage. In terms of, we have the high-level infrastructure, financial management systems, and then you have the technical knowledge that I think here there's lots of opportunities that we need to grow. We have gaps in the extension system and gaps in policies and regulations. And then we have the last mile accessibility. How do these crop nutrition products and solutions get to the last mile? As an industry, we see a huge potential as an umbrella body representing the value chain. We are uniquely positioned to be able to represent the voices of operators in the industry and the soil health space. And therefore, we are able to bring a unique perspective to policy making and execution to close a gap that we currently see between policymakers and the market and operational realities. And therefore, as an industry, we do have the potential to elevate industry standards and then now bring these solutions that impact on soil health and productivity and innovation. And to zoom in closer to the agro-dealers, now the agro-dealers have a huge potential because they are the last mile connectivity to the farmers, and therefore they are key adoption drivers for this technology, for crop nutrition and soil health practices to be adapted by the farmers. they have taken up the position of extension services a lot because farmers really go to them for advice. And that's an opportunity I see that we can be able to enhance. They're able to provide cross-sector information on good agricultural practices that cut across all inputs, so seeds, fertilizers. But if we zero in on to crop nutrition, they should be able to enhance the ability, to enhance the 4R nutrient stewardship, ISFM, soil health, and this would be able to give farmers the ability to make informed decisions and to adapt to these technologies. They have the opportunities for training, demonstration. A few of the agro-dealers in Kenya actually have set up centers of excellence where they are able to bring farmers and demonstrate different inputs and services. They're also able to provide other linked services. Now, when it comes to soil testing, they're able to link the soil testing service providers with the farmers. They're able to even, some have adapted drone technologies to apply agrochemicals and fertilizers. And in that sense, they're able to elevate the sector's capability to take advantage of future-facing innovations products. And as well, offer a strong voice towards lobbying for policies that enable business investments. Now, as I come to an end, what enabling environment is needed for the private sector? And by the private sector, I include the hub agro-dealers. Fertilizer policies and regulations need to be harmonized across the region to improve on intercontinental trade if we are to reach as a region where we want to reach. We need to increase investments in infrastructure, improve access to finance, and I think that has been addressed a lot in this conference. What I would want to highlight is the establishment of a stable and predictable policy environment and partnership visibility between the government, the private sector, the research and development agencies, because it's key for us to have key uniform messaging across all these groups. So as I come to an end, I'll say we need to focus, like I said, on policies and regulations. We need to take advantage of innovations that are already there and some that are coming up. We need to focus on addressing challenges that affect the nutrient use efficiencies and productivity. We are aware that unless we address our soil health issues, we are not going to be able to increase productivity. One of the challenges that is a big issue in Kenya is acidity. The industry has innovated, has come up with products like liming, this is my last slide, what are they called? Granulated lime, which because we know unless if we supply the fertilizer and the acid, the soils are acid, we're not getting anywhere in terms of increasing nutrient use efficiency and productivity. And increasing training and awareness is key, and uniformity in key messaging. Thank you.
Let's give her another round of applause, please. Without wasting any time, let me invite Dr. George Bigirwa to the podium. Thank you.
Good morning, dear participants. Let me begin by thanking AFAP for having invited AGRA to participate in this very important conference. AGRA has a long history with AFAP, and therefore you hold a dear position in our heart. So, may need some help here. Yeah. AGRA has been in existence for quite some time. And it is an African-led institution focusing on scaling agricultural technologies and innovations to help smallholder farmers towards achieving food security, better incomes, and livelihoods. And for us to do that, we are also contributing to some of the key sustainable development goals. And at continental level, we are focusing mainly on 3 of those, 4. Towards achieving zero hunger, towards improved nutrition, end poverty, and also climate adaptation. And how we plan to do that is really, first of all, to empower farmers so that they can build their resilience. And that is through development of systems. For instance, farmers must be in a position to access the right type of varieties if they're going to increase their crop productivity. So you need to build a system in place, a seed system in place. Likewise, you also need to have a proper resilience system in terms of farming systems so that farmers can apply some of these practices rightfully so as to really increase crop productivity. Then the other one is to support inclusive markets. And this calls for building and working with different players so that there is ready market for what farmers are producing, and even to have those people in place to uptake and process. Then the other one is really to work with the governments so that they have the capacity to put in place the right environment, and which is very inclusive for the different players to act. So, of course, the other things we work on, including nutrition, gender, and the others. Now, if you look at quickly the kind of achievements which have been made in the input supply, there is a lot. Gone are the days when everything was dominated by government. But as you realize now, most of all these have been liberalized. Governments are working hand in hand with the private sector, and that has led to a lot of improvements in terms of supply and availability. In the past, you could find only one, maybe, government institution in charge of import and distribution of inputs, but today we see a range of that. And that's why we've been talking about very many fertilizer companies in any given country. That's why we're talking about very many seed companies providing a range of varieties for different crops, and not only one crop, but different. And we are seeing also increased cross-border trade because of some of those policies and liberalization policies. However, there are still a few challenges to address. Some of these have already been mentioned, things like working capital, which is a big challenge for most of these input distributors, including agro-dealers, hub agro-dealers. Yesterday we talked about high interest rates. This is something really which needs to be worked on. I'm glad AFAP this week is going to launch that special facility to help address this challenge. The other issue is to do with the counterfeits. As the demand increases, you also end up having unscrupulous traders who end up supplying counterfeits. So there is a need to put in place mechanisms to address that, and there are several. We have seen some of those being introduced in the seed industry. With the use of electronic labels, you can be able to ascertain the source and authenticity of that, whatever is being used. So we do call upon to apply that in different sets of inputs, whether it is seed, whether it is fertilizer, whether it is pesticides. Marketing and distribution is still a challenge, especially in rural areas. As you go into deeper areas, accessibility of some of these inputs is still a challenge. So that is something still to work on. And the other one is to do with the awareness. Whereas we are talking about availability of some of these inputs, most of the farmers are not aware about some of these inputs. So there is need to really put deliberate efforts to create that awareness so that farmers can embrace, use those technologies to enhance their. And then, of course, the others are to do with the regulations and whatever. Now, when it comes to hub agro-dealers, they can't work in isolation. You have to consider other players, otherwise they will not exist. For instance, if you look at that orange part, the agro-dealers, for them to be there are certain things which should be in place. What are they going to supply? If they are going to supply fertilizer, you need fertilizer companies in place. If they are going to supply seed, you need seed companies in place to produce that seed which the agro-dealers can distribute. And even for the seed companies to exist, you need varieties in place. Who are those going to produce those varieties? They must be developed, they might be released. And if you don't have the capacity for the people to produce and develop those varieties, you need to invest in that. Likewise, you also need policies. So it is an ecosystem. They can't work in isolation. And that's why AGRA decided to invest in some of those things for the system to work effectively. You need human capacity. You need some of those inputs. Those inputs must be produced for the agro-dealers to deliver and distribute, and also the policies must be right. We have done a number of things really to make that happen in terms of identifying the agro-dealers, hub agro-dealers, training them, providing them some working capital, working in the policy environment, and also building their capacity to be able to provide services. That shows some summary of some of the support given to agro-dealers in different countries, close to 40,000 in different countries. And the support continues in terms of capacity building, and to some extent even giving them some little working capital so that they can establish their businesses and offer those services, including advisory services, where you need to build their capacity. And a study was done in 2019 to show the distances which have been reduced. In 2006, on average, farmers were walking close to over 20 kilometers to the next input supply. But this has been reduced over time, and thanks to the efforts of some of you and other partners, as you can see that in most of these countries, it has reduced. And we hope with the time that can even be reduced to further, less than maybe 3 kilometers. A lot has been done to understand some of these systems, how they are working in the different countries, to really try to find out who are those key players in any given country. Are those agro-dealers trained? Are they the owners running those agro-dealer shops? What kind of commodities do they mainly trade in? Are they in position to access working capital? Have they been certified? So some of the studies have been carried out in a number of countries, and that has gone a long way to help really. Now, in terms of how some hub agro-dealers can help implement the African Soil Action Plan, there are a number of things which can be done. One is really to enhance farmers' access to those inputs. The other one is to enhance availability, both for the different inputs, be it seed, be it fertilizer, or other inputs. There's need to provide advisory services, and that requires working hand in hand with some of these hub agro-dealers and agro-dealers. We need to build their capacity so that they can offer the right extension or advisory services to the end users. There's need also to work on financing mechanisms, and some of them can play that intermediary role. In some countries, we have these national agro-dealer associations, which can stand in for the others and intermediate with the financial institutions. There's need to promote access and availability of lime to address soil acidity, but also they play an important role to provide feedback loop mechanisms to the different partners, be it government or the input suppliers. So I strongly believe there is room to further improve on this and support them so that they can help to enhance crop productivity in Africa and bring about transformation. I thank you.
A round of applause, please, for Dr. Giro. Without much ado, I will call on Dr. Frimpong to take the podium. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To begin with, I need to apologize to all of you. I don't have a prepared slide, and that's for a reason. I will be participating in another session where I'll be delivering a master class. So there, I needed to prepare slides. I decided to adopt this informal approach to set the discussion in the proper perspectives. Actually, my job is cut for me because what I seek to do right now is to walk us briefly through the 10-year action plan. I'll try as much as I can within a short period of time to distill out a few salient issues. And then if we have more time, maybe we will do the conversation further. But first, let me say this. It's very delightful for me to be here in this very August HADC conference to meet all of you beautiful people. And on behalf of the Director General and the team at APNI, I wish to express our profound gratitude to the team and organizers of this conference for the opportunity that they have given us to be part of this conversation. And networking that has taken place and still ongoing here. Briefly, APNI is a not-for-profit R&D, Research and Development Institute, that is based in Bangui in Morocco. APN has a mission of enhanced plant nutrition for resilient and food-secure Africa. The Institute works to develop and promote sustainable plant nutrition. And I'm talking about management practices and innovation through research, education, and outreach. APNI has played several roles on the international arena. We have a lot of active projects and programs across Africa, and we collaborate with several international and local organizations. And so here I say we are deeply committed to working together with agro-dealers, particularly to ensure that there is sustainable soil health and plant nutrition management. So with that said, I would like to walk us briefly through the 10-year action plan. I will start this way. See, the overall strategy of the action plan is to harness multi-stakeholder partnership and investment to drive policies, finance markets, research and development, extension and capacity for efficient use of fertilizers, and sustainable soil health management. The plan is a very comprehensive document. It is very well thought out, very well rehearsed, and properly structured. So it has a background which acknowledges existing and previous commitments talking about Abuja commitment, for example. It recognizes the urgency and persistence of exogenous shocks like climate change, conflict situations, and such like. So it also focuses on development challenges. It has a program goal. It has an elaborate program design and an implementation framework. Again, it has a monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning, as well as project implementation strategy. So, having said this, and particularly because this forum is focused on agro-hub dealers, I wish to emphasize some of the barriers that agro-hub dealers are likely to encounter in their attempt to contribute to accelerating the implementation of this action plan. It's a truism that soil degradation is pervasive. Indeed, the moderator alluded to that, and that set me thinking. He was talking about reversal of soil degradation, and I asked myself, reversal? Well, it's probably doable or unsurmountable, depending on the extent to which the soil is degraded. That's notwithstanding, efforts have to be made to restore degraded soils, because we also encounter complex biophysical and socio-economic constraints. Biophysical in terms of seasonality, for example. In many places in Africa, agriculture is mainly rain-fed. And so if the rains are not here, you might want to apply fertilizer, you might want to apply organic inputs. But because there's lack of water access, water scarcity, you may not be able to do that very well. And then again, farm sizes are generally very small. And that does not provide the impetus that is needed for investment, huge investment, so to speak. There's also energy cost. And so if we are talking about producers, it's a big issue. Energy costs, cost of agro-logistics, that is also a big issue. Yes, there are barriers, but I always say that barriers are opportunities turned upside down. And so what I would say is that the increasing awareness and enthusiasm about soil health and plant nutrition management itself lends an opportunity for agro-hub dealers to invest. And here I say, for me as a soil scientist, I'm very, very delighted, because in the past, in global discussions, the issues about soil health was sent to the back burner. So now that it has been brought to the front burner, it's an opportunity. Now Africa has a youthful population, and with a growing incidence of digitalization, I think that is an opportunity for agro-hub dealers to promote, initiate, and incentivize capacity building. There are opportunities for investment. That's probably my last word here, and I will take my seat. There's opportunities for investment in that. So far, a large chunk of the fertilizer inputs that we use in Africa are imported. But it's also true that we have resources, natural reserves, that can be mined and refined and be used. This can be developed in-house. And this is where it provides opportunity, because we need to nurture talent. We need to develop capacity. We need to invest in tools and infrastructure. And market is expanding because population keeps growing and growing. And if we are able to do this very well, we would be contributing very well to food security, food and nutritional security, and poverty reduction. I'll end by saying that APNI has expertise, APNI has the willingness, APNI has experience to support agro-hub dealers in their attempt to contribute to accelerating the delivery of the 10-year action plan. I'll stop here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kwame. Very enlightening comments. We will go straight to Anthony. Please welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning. My name is Anthony Chapoto. I'm the Interim Executive Director of the Africa Network of Agricultural Policy Research Institutes. Our role essentially is to provide evidence for decision making, quality evidence, so that at least we can make decisions based on evidence. And over the years, we have grown to be an African network of 16 centers in 15 countries. And you hear more about it because we are trying to establish partnership with our colleagues at AFAP. And let me say thank you so much for inviting us to this conference. And it's always a marvel. I think as an APRI, we participated in trying to get the action plan. We were part of the technical team, together with AFAP, APNI, and others. And I'm pleased to say that the action plan is my colleague from APNI said, it's comprehensive. So, but I'm just standing in for my research director. There was nothing I could do. In the morning, I woke up, flight delayed. So I said, okay, I'll try to sit in. So anything good I say, it's mine. Anything that might not be very good is the talking points he sent to me early morning. Let me start from the perspective, say, what is it that agro-dealer hubs should do? First and foremost, I look at agro-dealer hubs as businesses. We are business people, isn't it? And we do things to make money. Is that right? That's the first objective. If we can't make money, then we don't belong. We are not business people. But however, we work in an environment where a lot of the people we serve need our assistance. So there is also a development objective that you need to take into account. However, as I indicated, you are business people first. Is that right? One myth that I want to try to dispel based on evidence is, this myth has always been used as a scapegoat for failures in the fertilizer market, that we don't have agro-dealers. Hence, government has to deliver inputs directly to farmers. But who do they work with? Work with their friends to deliver these inputs. Evidence shows that the distance to the nearest agro-dealer over the years has come down. And it's between 0 to 1 kilometer. And I think agro-dealers and AFAP, you deserve a clap here, because we have really developed the network, and there are more opportunities to come. Then this other second aspect is that agro-dealers and these briefcase business people are there just to stifle the smallholder farmers. That's not true. They are providing a service in a very tough environment. The road network is bad, communication network is bad. So as business people, you have to thrive, but however, it is reflective on the price, isn't it? When governments come in to try to provide a subsidy, prices are the same everywhere, but that's not true. Prices should differ depending on the cost of doing business, right? But unfortunately, it's a good scapegoat to say agro-dealers are just bad people. So that's one aspect that we need to deal with during the implementation of the 10-year action plan. We need to dispel all these myths. We need to put our A game to be able to service the millions of smallholder farmers. This takes me to a place where we say, okay, but we work in an environment that is quite difficult. The enabling environment, the policies that exist, the programs that our governments put in place. I mean, my sister said they like the subsidy program. Great. Every government has a role to support its farmers. But it is the way you support them. I was in a meeting late yesterday where we were talking about enabling environment. And in that discussion, nobody talked about private sector. I said, you are only focusing on government. But government resources alone will not make us achieve the objective of tripling fertilizer use in Africa. It will not be able to achieve, we will not be able to achieve a tripling of these soil health practices that are critical for us to be able to achieve, to upgrade our soil fertility status. And I said there is a role for private sector, and we need to put them up front. But for private sector to be able to achieve what they need, to be able to put that investment, the policy environment has to be predictable. I've always joked with somebody, say, yeah, as long as the policy is, if a policy is bad and is consistent, we can always work around it. But if the policy is bad and continues to change every day, then it becomes difficult for investments. So, agro-dealers and the hub need to work on advocating for consistent and predictable policies. And this you cannot do as individual companies. You can do this as a unit. And thanks to AFAP, I think they can facilitate you having that dialogue. It's important because if policies are changing every day, then you are not going to be able to invest. The second aspect has to do, maybe I'm speaking to government people, there is need for incentives for private sector to invest in a very rapid changing environment. So those incentives, if you want private sector to offer inputs at affordable prices, that means the subsidies, that's why I'm saying the subsidies are very important, but the way you deliver those subsidies is very key. I can give an example of we call it a traditional delivery of fertilizers to farmers, where government procures, hires transporters, then sends it down to the farmers. It's a very ineffective system. One, you've taken the decision away from the farmer to buy whatever they need. Two, you are ignoring the fact that there are people in that environment that have invested in servicing the farmers. They may not just doing fertilizer, but as agro-dealers, you deal with different inputs that are essential for agricultural production. But fertilizer is one big, I don't know, business people, you call it, it's what? It's one of, in terms of your balance sheet, fertilizer is one of those big ticket items. So if you are hit there, then that means your business is also dies. So it's important that we work together, because there are also other very bad business people, rent-seeking behavior. They go to government, give whatever they want to give. Then the whole system is changed because of one person who is well endowed. And I'm saying this because I have been in the policy space for a very long time. You find that the things that we recommend to our governments are not taken on board. Why? Because there's somebody who is benefiting from a relationship that is supposed to benefit the whole country. So there are certain bad business people, but that's part of the game, isn't it? It's part of the game. So that's why I'm saying it's important for agro-dealers to be together, speak with one voice, and influence change that is sustainable. So for the 10-year action plan, it's very important to work together. So these associations, I think they are very important. When you see a bad apple, I think it's good to call them as they are. You are a bad apple, you are not good for the industry. Please come and work with us within the association, because the implementation of the fertilizer and soil health plan is very key. So let me now go back to, so as I conclude, go back to the talking points that Tinashe sent me. It says, okay, how do we improve access and affordability of organic mineral fertilizers? I think from our standpoint, I think today you had a very great meeting with women and youth. Great. I think it's important that we crowd in women and youth business people. They are there, but they need your hand. You need to handhold them. So it's important that we create these opportunities for women and youth in the fertilizer and soil health space. The other component is that because there is soil health in the action plan, we need to rethink our strategies. We need to be able to provide those services to the farmer. It cannot just be fertilizer. There could be organic fertilizers. I think yesterday I met somebody who is doing biochar. We need to make sure that these organic inputs they really can easily be accessible. Because we can talk about inputs that are not accessible. So it's important, it's a challenge, it's a business, I mean, it's an opportunity for wholesalers to try to get all these inputs that contribute to low carbon objective, so that we can be able to have our farmers access them. Then the issue of regional trade. I think it's important that we push for the domestication of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. When I say domestication, I'm meaning at the national level. We had an agreement right at the top, but trying to operationalize it at country level, I think it's an opportunity, I think, for us to be able to work with our governments to say, yes, you say that we are producing and exporting all the fertilizers out of Africa, but the environment does not permit easily for you to get these goods and services across our borders. So it's important that we advocate for the domestication of this trade agreement. Issues of tariffs, standards, they're also very important. But I think it all takes us to work together as partners. Then the last point I think that he wanted me to speak about has to do with the agro-dealers being recognized as one of the channels through which farmers receive their extension messages. So agro-dealers, you could provide information, relevant information to farmers as part of a multi-dimensional extension system. It's not just the government, extension officers that can provide extension. So there's an opportunity here for business people to also go into extension. I can give you an example. In Zambia, one of our centers launched a program called Farmer Know Your Soil. And this is a research institution, because we saw that there was a gap in terms of information. What farmers were getting is not what the soil needs. So there's that information gap, hence there is need to fill it. And we said, okay, how do we fill that gap? It's through the agro-dealers, because they're already on the ground. They can then provide a service for farmers to know their soil. Hence the issue of IT. Technology is very important. There are so many companies out there that have got some technologies that within 10, 15 minutes you can, maybe not 10 minutes, even more. It's maybe 2 minutes. You can know to some degree of confidence that this soil status is X. So I think we need to embrace technology. I think with that, let me stop. I can speak the whole day. I'm passionate about the smallholder farmer. We have been talking about them for years, but this is an opportunity for this action plan to be Africa-led. I think I've spoken a lot about it has to be Africa-led and then facilitated by other global partners, not the reverse. Because if it is the reverse, it will be just like any other project. It will come and end. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, for those remarks. In the interest of time, I think I'm going to raise 2 questions for the panelists to respond to, and then we will summarize and conclude. Anthony has talked about the issue of businesses, agro-dealers included, being perceived as potentially profiteers. Sometimes the government also carries along that thinking that because agro-dealers as businesses are likely to exploit our farmers, let's do the service ourselves. Probably, agro-dealers themselves may have contributed to that perception. I would like Dr. Lillian to respond to that perception. Are agro-dealers driven more by service provision or by profit making? It's a balance. I would like you to speak to that. Then let me raise a second point that Dr. Bigira will speak to, and that has to do with subsidies. In the last 10 years, or 12 years that AFAP has been involved, we have seen Tanzania, in Ghana, in Malawi, in Kenya, subsidies undermining the business of our agro-dealers. What needs to be in place, or how can this be reversed? How can we work towards, while Dr. Lillian did point out that subsidies are necessary, but at the same time, when they undermine the business of our agro-dealers, we have a problem. Dr. Bigira, please, can you speak to that? I think after they have made their comments, I will have the other 2 panelists also comment on the same two points. Then I would like to summarize, and we close this session. Dr. Lillian, please.
Thank you, Joseph. I think you asked a vital question. And I don't think it's about the competition between service provision and profit. I think you clearly said it's more about the balance. And I don't think there's any business any business person that will want to just come. For you to maximize on profit, how do you do it? You have to give service, and you have to give credible service, and you have to give credible inputs. So any business person is going to maximize on the provision and on giving credible inputs to be able to be there for a long time to maximize on profit. So I think it's a misconception that is out there. I mean, if you were to look at the Abuja Declaration and where Kenya has reached, I think a lot of this has been private sector led. It's been the liberation of the market in Kenya, which had included the extension. I mean, they have agro-dealers, and I like what my colleague here said. I didn't get your name, but you said the hub agro-dealers should be recognized as extension providers, and they do provide that extension, because I believe we do recognize as business people, if you're not giving value, if you're not competitive, you're not going to be there for a long time. So it's a balance between profit. How do you achieve this profit? You have to be credible. You have to give the right services, the right information, otherwise you're not going to be there to make that profit. In summary, that's what I would say.
Thank you, thank you. Maybe the term profit itself can be misleading. To me, it should be return on investment.
True.
Because if that investment that the Agro-Dealers put in the business, if it was placed in the bank or placed in other opportunities, it would be earning a return. So the question might be, how much return is reasonable?
Return on investment. And with the Agro-Dealers, it's the return on investment not only for them, but even for the farmers. Because I think you need to figure out how do I help the farmer also have a return on investment through the services that I'm providing to them. And I don't know, the misconception, I don't know where it comes from, that business people are there to take advantage of farmers. We are not here to take advantage of the farmers. We are here to help the farmers grow. Our interest is to increase productivity. Our interest is for the food security. But with that, we put investments down. So with these investments, you also need to get, like you're saying, the return on your investments. So there is no big competition there. It's like you said, it's the balance. How do we achieve the balance? And how does the government now come in and create that enabling environment to help us achieve that? So it's the private sector working together with the government giving us enabling policies and stable and predictable environment to help us, to support us grow this. But then, like it was pointed out, we need to work together in associations, and I like what AFAP is doing to come and strengthen our associations, the Fertilizer associations, the Agro-Dealer association, so that we can be able to weed out those few people who may come in to take up advantage of the farmers.
Dr. Kwame, do you have a comment on that topic? Do you have a comment on this, on that topic, the balance between profitability and service provision by Agro-Dealers?
Okay. Yes, it is clear that for every business, they would like to optimize, as you call it, returns. But the thing is, the other person at the other end, be it government or the farmer, which is the user agency, I believe what has to happen is that there must be the development of mutual trust. If the farmer knows that you are in for their good and not just to promote your business, that's the first thing. And how we could do this is where we have to ensure transparency and information sharing. So everybody is aware of what is happening. And again, we should participate in co-development, co-implementation, and evaluation of our investment outcomes. And interestingly, because our farmers are smallholders, and we should also up our game in our corporate social obligations. I believe that way also we warm our way into their hearts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kwame. I think we'll move on to the second point about subsidies and the undermining potential that they carry on Agro-Dealers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joseph. I think let's appreciate one thing, that subsidies are not bad because they have got an important role they play, especially to our smallholder farmers who are unable to easily access some of these inputs in time and at affordable costs. However, if these subsidies are not well planned, they can undermine businesses. They can create dependence syndrome, that's one. Number two, they can kill other businesses. You have a situation where everyone is just targeting government subsidies. They make no effort to invest in other delivery channels, like using agro-dealers or hub agro-dealers. Or what happens is they supply to government. Government has got its own mechanism of distributing those inputs to the farmers. So what happens to those who have been playing that role in the ecosystem? And again, there's that element of creating room for counterfeits if the system is not well aligned. So there are certain things you need really to work on for the subsidy program to be effective and to serve its purpose.
Thank you, Dr. Bigirwa. We are run short of time, so this topic can continue as we interact out there. To summarize, there are opportunities for agro-dealers. The fact that agro-dealers exist within an ecosystem of collaborative organizations, the suppliers, financial service providers, development practitioners, farming communities, policy support actors, downstream actors, research institutions, is an opportunity that agro-dealers can tap into in order to be able to participate in the programs that will be upcoming as programs for implementation of the action plan are developed. I will stop there, and again, thank you very much for the opportunity to have listened to us. Thank you.